Chef Buck here, and today I'm going to make the world's plainest cookie. This cookie will impress no one. If you're a hobo on a train, clackety 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 clack, and other hobos jump on the train, they're going to take one of your cookies and they're going to eat that cookie, and they're going to be like, you know what? Pass. Hard pass on these cookies. This cookie is so plain that your grandpa will like it. The recipe that I'm going to have down below and over at myfoodchannel.com is a full recipe, but I'm only going to make a half recipe because I've been eating way too many of these cookies this week. But I wouldn't make this cookie for a lot of other people. It's just not going to impress anybody. If somebody invites you to a party and you really don't appreciate that person, make these cookies and take them over there. You probably won't be invited again. But it's perfect for a cup of coffee. They're crunchy, they got the right texture, and it's a cookie. I have had too many cookies today. And maybe too much coffee. But let's get going on this super duper ultimate plain Jane cookie. I'm going to start here with 1 egg. Like I said, I'm just making a half recipe. But if you make the full recipe, it's still just 1 egg. Because I don't want to put 2 eggs in it, but I don't want to put a half an egg in there. Because how do you eat half an egg? While it's in the bowl all on its lonesome, we'll give it a nice whisky whisk. And then I'm going to put in some oil. Very little oil. Since this is a half recipe, I'm just putting 1/4 cup, so not much oil at all. Now we're going to do vanilla, and I actually have upped the vanilla in this recipe, so it's actually quite a little bit of vanilla. But it's still a plain cookie. Now I'm going to add sugar. Now I know what you're thinking, sugar, that's not wet, but it's kind of wet. It'll become liquidy sugar almost instantaneously. So you want to whisk it up. That's our wet ingredients. So now for our dry ingredients is nothing. It's flour, but I'm going to sift my flour with a wee little bit of salt. Salt is always optional. A rain of powdery goodness. Now we will take our wet and mix it in with our dry. With a lot of these doughy dishes, you don't want to overmix, but this recipe, it doesn't matter. There is no such thing as overmixing or undermixing. You just want to get it to the right consistency. You want to make sure that it is dry. You don't want it to be overly wet. It's going to be very doughy so that it's easy to handle. And this doesn't look like a lot. And it's not supposed to look like a lot because it's a half. It's a half of what I usually make. I cannot make another full recipe of this today. Otherwise, I'll have to be buying some new britches. And it's too early in the year to be buying new britches. I shouldn't have to do that until the fall. Now that looks too wet. I don't like the way that looks. So I'm going to throw in a wee little bit more flour. Because I want it to be easy to handle. I don't want my dough to be sticking to everything. I don't want to be wrestling with my dough. I think I'm almost there. I think I can handle this. See, that's good. I can handle it. You know, I can do all this stuff here. I can have fun with it. You know, like the thing where you used to put it on the newspaper. Then you could read your newspaper in your dough. What was that stuff called?
Silly putty.
Silly putty. So add enough flour so that you can handle it and do this kind of stuff with it. I feel like I'm getting ready for the big game.
You don't keep messing with your dough. It'll be hard as hockey pucks.
Yes, but I want this to be hard. This is not a light, fluffy, airy cookie. This is a very dense cookie. This is the type of cookie that you could be sitting down enjoying your cookie, and then if some of the neighboring villagers from the village that doesn't get along with your village comes running over the hill, you could take your cookies, you could put them in a slingshot, boom, and take out those villagers. You want a slash cookie slash weapon slash...
No more coffee for you for a week.
Okay. Oh, here's one thing I am going to put in here. I'm going to put walnuts. Now, these instantaneously become not plain cookies. Now, if I was by myself, no walnuts. But Camera Girl's here, so I'm going to add walnuts because I'm a good boyfriend. And I'm not going to give the love of my life plain cookies. But these walnuts are completely optional. We'll go ahead and make a bunch of little cookies with it. And this here, a little bit of parchment paper, and I've actually used this parchment paper like 3 times already. I don't know why I ever used parchment paper and then threw it away. You could just keep on reusing it. You know, I was making this here and I was like rolling it out with a roller, and I was doing like little diskettes of cookies, you know, like the perfectly shaped little cookies. But I don't know why I was doing that. I was bored. You don't have to do that. I'm just going to shape them with my hand. And this is probably about a tablespoon size of dough. If I take one of these cookies and I make a little disc of it, I'm going to go ahead and smooth along the edges so that my edges aren't too thin, because I don't want my edges to cook too quickly. The main thing is you want them to be about the same thickness. You don't want one to be overly thick. These cookies aren't going to spread out a lot. They're not going to do much of anything. They're just going to bake and solidify and to turn into these hard little nuggets of dough. You know that old movie True Grit with Rooster Cogburn, and he had, was that corn dodgers? He had like a bag of corn dodgers. This is the cookie equivalent of that. If you're a bounty hunter and you're going to go off into the wilderness and chase outlaws, this is the cookie that you want to have with you. These are cookies for desperate men. So my oven is preheated. It is at 350 degrees, and I'm going to slide it in the oven, and I'm going to set my timer for 1, 2, 0, 0, start, and then we'll check on it then. Beep, 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 beep. It has been 12 minutes. Let me put this over here. It doesn't look overly done on the top, and it doesn't look overly done on the bottom. Boom, so we'll put it back in for a couple of more minutes, and we'll see what it looks like. But I checked it after 12 minutes, so you gotta watch it like a hawk, because they won't look like they're done until they're overdone. They're not gonna look done on the top when they're done, but they're gonna get overdone on the bottom. So they're gonna be done before they look like they're done.
Just say they don't brown like regular cookies.
They don't brown like regular cookies. See, these are some cookies I made earlier. These are the walnut cookies that I made. See how they're brown on the bottom and not very colored on top? That's kind of what we're looking for, because these have a great, look, see that, I can hardly even break it. I have to hold it.
Because you overmixed it.
Ah, you mixed the snap. You missed it.
Uh-oh,
Oh,
sorry.
man. I don't want to snap enough. Here's the one that I rolled up and put in the fridge and cooked. See how plain that is? I really love these though, but they are just so plain. Oh, there we go. Beep, 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 beep. Is that enough color? That's enough color. So now I'll go ahead and put these on a rack, and they're still kind of softish right now, but when they harden, they will be very hard. And I could let them go for another minute if I wanted to, and it wouldn't hurt them, but I wouldn't want them to go much further than that. See how light these look right here? And it's a little darker on there, but that's fine. That's close enough. You don't want it to get this dark on top. Otherwise, they're going to be like shingles. They're already kind of like shingles, but they're delicious shingles. But this cookie, although very plain, is perfect with coffee. If you're like an old man sitting on a porch alone with a cup of coffee, this is the perfect cookie for the loner. Oh, that was weak. Come over here and see if you can get the snappy sound of this here. So if you want a plain Jane cookie, no thrills. You know, it's no thrills, that's it. No frills and no thrills. You can go over to myfoodchannel.com. You can print out all our recipes over there. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. But you know, I'm not really having a sugar rush, because there isn't a lot of sugar in these cookies.
No, this is caffeine.
This is definitely caffeine related, this whole problem.